A lot around the world on business, and I think the World Service radio is fantastic, and I know so many people who depend upon it. And I think it's very important that we should have it in every country we can, and in local languages too. You go to India, apart from the educated top percentage, most of the people understand half the dialects. If we get our language into those languages, I mean, Mark Tully has a fantastic following in India and so on. The television also, BBC News, people trust it. I don't know whether it's left or right-wing bias or anything else, but broadly speaking, it's British and people trust British things. And we don't tell porcupines, and we are consistent and we go around doing that. And even if you've got a slight spin, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is we're there and we're present. And it's a tremendous moral tone, it exposes dictatorships, it tells the truth where it can, and I think that is a valuable reason why we should pay a little fee. I'm not sure about the rest of it, but I think it's, maybe the Foreign Office should pay for that service.
The Foreign Office used to pay, it used to pay for the World Service.
But I think that is a wonderful thing we should never lose, and CNN and all those, they don't cut the mustard. BBC is the one people trust.
Graham.
Yeah, ITV was set up as a regional franchisor, which had regional companies producing regional output that was fed into eventually the ITV network. Whereas that now has gone by the way of the merge into Granada and Carlton, and then obviously to this national ITV channel, and then the merger of the franchises within the regions. For example, Bristol now produces news that was showing the local news service for Plymouth now on ITV, and the only local or regional television service and the only radio service that produces sort of direct access is now the BBC. And as soon as you start threatening cutbacks, it's to the regions that the BBC just seem to...
Yeah. I mean, they were trying to pretend that it wasn't an arm of the British government by calling it the BBC World Service, really. But I mean, basically, yes, I agree. You've got, I mean, the Freedom Association, Simon made this decision, I think earlier this year or late last year, but we will not deal with Press TV or RT, Russia Today, as it was known. We will just not deal with them. Some people do deal with them. I think Paul Staines, Guido Fawkes, he goes on them and then he says, donate my appearance fee to the Conservative Friends of Israel, which is, yeah, exactly. But I go back, look, the BBC is a trusted, respected brand. I agree. And if it is genuine public service broadcasting protected, instead of having a small fee, I think small fees just cost more to collect, to be perfectly honest. Then if it's genuine public service broadcasting, it's generally, and the news is that high standard, then funded through general taxation, I would say. Going back, yeah, the regions, you're absolutely right. I mean, the regional, particularly regional radio, it's just gradually being cut back and cut back and cut back. You never see the salaries of the top people cut, do you? You never see them really slimming their management structure or anything like that. All the money is still thrown at the national, Radio 4. I mean, I mentioned I praised it, but little known fact, I guess, is that the overall budget of all BBC radio stations across England is not that much. It's a couple hundred million, I think, smaller than the entire budget of BBC Radio 4. That is how much money is actually thrown at BBC Radio 4. So yeah, I mean, there's also the newspaper argument, because many people say that the BBC take their newspapers say they take their stories and they don't credit the local newspapers and things like that. But in all fairness, when I tune into various BBC radio breakfast shows and things like that, I do find out a lot of what's going on in that particular area. And I don't think that they really interfere much with the newspapers at all. I mean, let's be perfectly honest, the reason why newspapers are in terminal decline is because some bright spark, I don't know when it was, decided, I know a good idea, why don't we give away all our content for free? And then they did. And now, Sam and I were discussing this earlier today, we can't remember the last time we bought a newspaper. I can't remember the last time I bought a newspaper. I check everything online. And I haven't read the Times in God knows how long because I won't pay a subscription to it. It's not that I don't think that that I should get the Times for free. It's just that I get everything else for free. So why on earth would I bother subscribing to the Times? So I think that's the reason why newspapers, particularly regional newspapers, are in terminal decline. More and more of them are going weekly. It's, you know, there's not that many daily newspapers around. In fact, some parts of the country are not served by a local regional daily newspaper at all.
We'll take another brace of questions. Caroline and then Robert.
Caroline Stratford. A long time ago, in the dim and distant past, I had a junior position in the BBC. And when you started off there, you went to the BBC training school for a week. And one of the things that was ingrained into you was that the news was presented in an impartial fashion. Now, under those rules, it wouldn't be possible for the BBC to say that they had got views on climate change. They should just be presenting the facts. So I think the BBC is failing on that. And I can't understand why every single news item in the evening you have to have something about culture. Now, culture might be in the news, but it doesn't have to be in the news. It's not there on its own merit.
And fresh from having walked over hot coals, Robert.
Okay, so obviously, I mean, as people know, I mean, the presenter of the iconic political issue news programme Newsnight has been replaced by a man far less known and far less verbose and articulate in the way that he presents the programme. Do you think that anyone out there would make a suitable replacement for Jeremy Paxman?
I'll just deal with yours first. I mean, I just basically I agree with you. But the fact that the BBC has said that, you know, Lord Lawson is not going to go on because his opinions just represent the loony fringe or whatever like that proves that the BBC have effectively got an editorial policy on that. Yeah, I've given up watching Newsnight. In fact, I gave up watching Newsnight before Jeremy Paxman decided to call it a day, because you could see that even he was getting sick of Newsnight. A replacement for him was certainly not this one. I really think it's an awful programme, and I think that the viewing figures, there must be down to about 600,000, 700,000. It's very, very small now. Personally, what I would do with Newsnight is scrap it and come up with something new in its place.
What are we going to do about radio? How are we going to fund radio?
I think radio will be funded through pretty much BBC National Radio.
Where will that be?
No. I'm going to run through this through channel by channel. I'm just going to change tack here slightly. Radio 1. Good grief. What is the point of Radio 1? As Jeremy Paxman said, you know, so Radio 1 Extra was being piped in through the lifts as you go in New Broadcasting House. That could easily be a commercial success. There's no problem. Interesting listening to people from the independent sector when they gave evidence to the Select Committee about Radio 2, because people will say, well, there's nothing like Radio 2. Well, there isn't. I'd agree. It is a unique radio station for all the different genres that it has. But the biggest gripe from people from the commercial sector is it puts them out. Goodness knows how many other radio stations out of business. Because he tries to, you know, he puts out a jazz program on an afternoon, and he'll go to some country, it'll just flick between everything. And I wish it wasn't like that. That's what the people there. Radio 3, Radio 3 is it's a bit of an enigma, really. I can listen. I'm a big devotee of classical music. I've been a church organist for 30 years and other stuff like that. So I do love good quality music. The thing is, I can get that anywhere. I mean, I've only got to go onto Spotify and find anything that I want on there. I can tune in on the internet and listen to, I don't know, sort of Canadian radio with the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra doing a concert there. I can find it all. Now, I do appreciate that not everyone has that facility, but I think it's probably, I mean, its audience is very, very small, and it'll probably continue as a public service role. Radio 4, just continue with. So I think it's important. And as much as I do have criticisms of the Today programme, sometimes I want to sort of throw things at it. I used to listen to my radio through the computer, so I'm always ready to throw it through the computer screen. I do think that people like John Humphreys is a class. Well, John Humphreys is a class act. He is an excellent interviewer, and yeah, I think you'd have to keep that, and that would be public service broadcasting, and it should be funded. And I would say exactly the same for the regions. I think it's a genuine public service that they provide for most of their shows. However, once you get past breakfast, and you start to get into mid-morning chats and things like that, and then you get into sort of entertainment programmes in the afternoon, you do wonder why that needs to be funded through compulsion, because it's not public service broadcasting.
Yeah, but look back, when we were young, most of us in this room, Round the Horn, the Goons, it was very brave radio. And today, they're still broadcasting some quite brave comedy shows.
On Radio 4.
What else
yeah.
would Nicholas Parsons do?
Well, that's what I say with Radio 4. I agree with you on Radio 4. I do agree with you, yeah.
Right, I'll take 2 more questions, ladies and gentlemen. Anne, did I see your hand up over there?
It is a question, because I find myself very confused by the BBC. In some respects, I could cheerfully throw a brick through the television screen more than one occasion, and then other times I think how marvellous they're managing to actually ridicule themselves. A prime example was, if you remember, the 2012 Fly on the Wall semi-documentary with Hugh Bonneville as head of deliverance of the 2012 Olympics. Remember that? And then it was followed up when he lost that job because the Olympics was over. He then went on to become head of brand in BBC Broadcasting House. And that was an absolute hoot. And I just, first of all, I want to know, was that a real scenario of how BBC works in that environment? And then the break through the television set comes when they decide, quite deliberately in my view, to televise a casual vacancy 2 months before the general election, when that could have easily been postponed, because there's been a lot of criticism about that. What's your view on where I'm coming from here? Are they just being deliberately provocative?
And one final question. No, or we'll just stick with that. Yeah, Derek, is that from the gloom?
Well, there's hundreds of aspects, aren't there? I mean, I'm so glad we've been talking about radio. The successor programme to start was The Archers, and it was an everyday story of country folk, and it was started to inform people, particularly after the war, of changes and various things and so on. And it has morphed into a promotion of strange habits and odd behaviour. And I think that in a sense has seen the way in which the BBC has changed over the last 50 years, from being a public broadcaster of merit to being a commentator. But having said that, I'd like to just say that I no longer watch the BBC News. I watch France 24 or Al Jazeera. Thanks.
But the thing is, that's going to be the nature of it all. And there's other things that you think is absolutely wonderful. W1A was the one that you're talking about, great parody and things like that. But I just go back to what I said earlier. You know, if the BBC represents great value for money, 40 pence a day, I'm not saying that it does, I'm not saying that it doesn't, then people will subscribe to it. And it's as simple as that. The BBC is completely risk averse. Their business model is based on criminal sanctions. It's absolutely right. You know, their business model is based on getting, it's an extortion racket really, yes. Getting money out of people by force, otherwise we will eventually imprison you for not paying a fine. That is the BBC's business model. And the BBC has lost out a lot on sport, major coverage of sport because it says it can't afford it because Sky's got more money. But as a private company, it can borrow. And he could look to get the rights for some of those major sporting events. So that's that. What was your final point, Anne? Sorry, I can't remember.
I was wondering if they were just being deliberately provocative.
Provocative on that way. You said the same about Channel 4, couldn't you?
Yes.
And all the rest of it. I don't know. I just found all those programmes that I've seen recently just very. I can't see how it can be allowed in the long campaign for a general election. I mean, we've known the date of this general election thanks to the All Fixed Parliament Act, but we've actually known the date of this general election for 4 years. We've known exactly everything's been set in. I mean, as campaign groups, we've got to be careful in the run-up how much we spend, whether we're promoting candidates with all the lobbying acts and things like that. Everyone knew that whatever date it was, it's whatever date it was in December, the long campaign started. And I would have thought from then on that any programmes like that, and that one where had Nigel Farage as Prime Minister having a cigarette on his way to see the Queen in the car and things like that, I just can't believe that any broadcaster would have done that. But then,
yeah, it seems to not deliberately
it does.
poison your mind. You know, trying to-
But of course, it could have the opposite effect. Many people think, to hell with this. If they're trying to stitch UKIP up here, I'm going to vote for them now. But you can always have that opposite effect as well as a negative effect.
Yeah. But can I just, for that gentleman who mentioned about the good old days, they've addressed that quite well actually with Radio 4 Extra. Which does, you know, that's what it does. It broadcasts. There's no news, thank goodness. It's all comedy, drama, and it's all the old stuff, the Goon shows, Round the Horn. Yeah, so that's where they've addressed that one. Unfortunately, they're repeating them about half a dozen times. But anyway.
We've ended on the Goons.
Yeah, you have to wonder at the BBC, which in its day was the world-leading broadcaster, what's gone wrong on technical issues apart from anything else. I mean, I like Andrew, I tend to watch using tablets and things. On my tablet, I can't get the BBC iPlayer to work at all. There's a place where you put comments on. You can rate it with a minimum of 1 star. 14,472 people have given it 1 star out of 5. And there's a comment, you can leave comments. There's one here that says, an utterly abysmal app, despite, or should I say because of, its vast income, fleeced from the public by means of the TV licence, the BBC treats people with the utmost contempt. Oh, hang on, that's the one that I wrote. But actually, in all seriousness, if you read some of the comments about the BBC are absolutely scathing. And I don't want to just concentrate on that. But I would like to thank Andrew, not only for an excellent talk and answering the questions so well now, but really for what he's done on this campaign. And as he said, he is like a dog with a bone, and he's not going to let go. And I'm really absolutely delighted, Andrew, with what you've done. There's an excellent new AXA TV Tax website now.
Yes, I forgot that, yes.
Yeah.
AXATVTax.net is our new website. It was just launched just over a week ago. It's got lots of things on there. I will build it up when I get the time. I just didn't have the time before this.
And I think what he's doing is very much in the best traditions of the Freedom Association, because we are taking the lead where others fear to tread. As Andrew mentioned, most political parties will not touch this because they're so terrified of the power of the BBC in the run-up to an election. But that's been our tradition. We tackled the closed shop, we tackled identity cards, tackled CMD, and I think this is very much in our tradition. So I'm very proud of what you're doing. So please give Andrew a very big round of applause.